Hi, it's Liz. Today we're going to be making neck cozies, neck warmers, whatever you want to call them. We are going to be making it out of very simple fabric, some stretchy fabric if you have it, or however you like. Just take those measurements into mind when you're taking them on and off your head. It's large, but you can make it any size. This pattern is super adaptable, and then it tapers off into a smaller size at the back. If you're wanting a bigger size, of course, for you to keep your neck warm, you can do that. So this one you can really wear with whatever hairstyle that you want. Make sure you stay to the end, and I show you the two other sizes that I made. And they do have different looks. I give you all the measurements at the end for these two sizes, different looks and different purposes. Make sure you also measure your head. I show you how to do that at the end, and then any modifications you want to make. All right, so I have my fabric laid out. This one is a ribbed fabric. It's stretchy, it's got stretch to it. When you're thinking about your material, just depending on the size, if it's not something that stretches, you have to really make sure it goes over your head. So, and I'm cutting my fabric. The stretchy side goes this way. If I go like this, not so much stretch. So I want this to be going around my neck. So you have a couple options. You can do whatever length you want. So I'm going to be doing, for this one, I'm going to be doing 15 inches across and 9 high. You could also, what I was thinking about some other ones is at the, like in toward your chest, you could do a triangle shape if you wanted to, because then if you're wearing something that needs a little bit of chest protection from the wind, that's always a great option. So it can kind of go down your chest rather than it stopping right at your collarbone. Up to you what you want to do, but here we go. They're going to do 15, so I'm going to do it there, and then I'm going to do 9 high. So I'm going to want 2 pieces of this, and what I do is also laying it on top of each other and then cut. So I've got 2 pieces that aren't attached to each other. They are the same size, and that's really important, especially with stretchy fabric that can definitely alter and shift. And then now we're going to be doing the back pieces that are going to attaching this. So we're going to cut them 6 inches long by 3 inches high. So I have cut out 2 pieces for the back, and those ones are 3 inches high by 6 inches long. All right, so I have my 2 pieces. One is 15 long by 9 high, and then this one is 3 by 6. And I have my right sides facing together. So you're going to want to make sure that both of them have the right sides facing together. And then what you're going to do is go over to your serger or sewing machine, and you're going to sew these ones together. So that side, and then you're going to come down and do this side and that side. All right, so we have this first long piece, it's sewn. We're gonna flip it right side out. All right, now it's just a big tube. So our next step is gonna clip some of those ends. One of the openings, one of the edges on the short end, so this is still the 9-inch end. And we are going to make a gathered seam, hem, whatever we're calling it, but basically we're going to put our sewing stitch on a long stitch. So mine's probably going to go on a 4 length, and then I'm just going to sew along there. I don't want a back stitch front and back. I'm just going to do a gather, so then once it's stitched up, then I can gather it and pull it, and it's going to cinch it in together. All right, so I wanted to leave enough of a tail so that I can grab my threads and pull them. You want to pull them gently so you don't break them. Depending on your material, this can be really easy or quite difficult. And just keep kind of moving it down as you pull them. Moving it across. All right, we're gonna do the other side now. Do the same thing. Clip our threads. Take those corners if you want. You could also, before this step, is give it a top stitch, give it a press, and give it a top stitch, but doing a very simple and easy method. So you would want to do a top stitch before you do this step. But we're gonna do a long thread, basically like a basting stitch thread. So I'm giving myself a pretty good edge because this edge will have to fit inside that smaller one we did. That's gonna hold everything together. So I just pulled that out really fast and it pulled out from one side. So we wanna make sure we're holding to the threads on both. So then we can gather up both. If it doesn't work, you can always re-sew it again. All right, so in the end, you're just gonna want some gathers, really simple gathers. So what I'm gonna do is change my thread to a black thread because I want it to coordinate with my colors so you won't be able to see it. More importantly, I wanna make sure I change my stitch length back to where it is, maybe 2, 3, wherever you like it. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take that small little piece that we did, 3 by 6, and we're gonna turn it inside out. All right, and what I do is I fold in the edges. It's up to you how much you want to fold in. It depends on how wide your head is, how much seam allowance you're going to give yourself. I probably did maybe an inch of folding it in on one side. I start with one side at a time, but I've equated that into my calculations, but it's just approximate. So this is a kind of essentially the same method you would use to make a headband. It's just that we're making it quite larger for not our head, for our neck. Okay, so you're going to gather all of your gathers together, and then you're going to put it inside that folded edge we just did. And what I try to do is line up my seams on the side. So the big headband or the big neck scarf is matching up with that small seam, and I want to make sure I have all my fibers inside because we are going to do a top stitch on this. So I went to the other side and I can see some of those gathers are not in there. So I really want to make sure that my gathers and my stitches are all in there. What I've also been doing is putting a pin at one end just to make sure things stay. And then I just have a quick look before I take it underneath the sewing machine. It is a tricky sew just because you have so much fabric. What you can do is give it a little press before you sew, and that will make it all right, but it is still a trickier one to sew. So I usually sew on one side, I flip it over, and I sew the other side to make sure that those all those ruffles are encased. All right, so you can sort of see the white threads we can now clip or pull out because that was for the gathers. But what I do is I end up flipping it onto the other side and just make sure I give it another stitch across, and that just secures it because there will be kind of a lot of tension going to be put onto it if you're taking it on and off quite often, and I just want to make sure all those seams are going to be tucked in there. All right, so I did 2 passes, 1 in each side. Now I'm gonna go to the other side. So same thing, I'm gonna take this top, tuck it in, about an inch, maybe half an inch. So I'm going to make sure that there's no twists and do my gathers and then put it inside, matching up the seams again. All right, so I'm going to put a pin on this side. All right, so I finished one side. I'm just gonna flip it over. Oh, so somehow my fabric shifted over and it didn't catch this side. So what I wanna do is just push it back up. I can unpick the seams for the other side, or if it's already encased, this one isn't too bad. I'll just sew on this side and then making sure that both the sides are encased. It's a bit tricky with this amount of fabric. You definitely, I have another sewing machine back there that definitely handles thicker fabric. I believe also like the presser foot is just a bit higher on some of the older machines. So just, yeah, trying to figure out what works. And you could also base stitch this so that it doesn't shift on you when you're sewing. So I'm just gonna sew the other side and make sure it's tucked in. All right, so I got it all tucked in. You really do have to use those feed dogs for this project because it is so thick. You can do smaller pin tucks along there that'll help distribute the thickness, but it just depends really on how much time you want to spend on it. But that's it. Well, we have to clip our threads, of course. You can also do another pass, whatever you feel like. All right, so we have a finished one. Let's go try it on. All right, so this is the one we just made. It was kind of dark in the video, but it is a blue, not a black. And so we are gonna put it over our head so it fits nicely over our head. Come down, and it's got some nice ease. I'm hoping I'm not hitting my mic. So that's another thing you want to think about when choosing your fabric. If it's light and drapey, it probably won't have the stiffness to it. What you could also do, I didn't do any top stitching, but you can definitely top stitch it before you assemble the smaller 3x6 pieces together to wear it. So when it's still a rectangle and you've sewn the edges, then you can top stitch it, turn it out, top stitch it around. If you're living in a colder climate and you need some more thickness compared to this, what you could do is you could sew your rectangle. So you sew the top edge, bottom edge, and then you flip it inside out, and then you can put another piece of thicker fabric in it and then just top stitch it. So you probably wouldn't want to include that in between piece into when you're gathering your stitches and trying to put it in the 3x6 piece. You just want to put it in between this fabric. But for where I live, this is the perfect weather. Another thing you could do is, because this doesn't go all the way down my neck, is I could have a triangle that I put on. So when I cut my fabric, at the one end of my fabric, one end would be straight, and then the other one would be, I'd find a halfway point and put a triangle, and then I would serge it just like that too. And so it's going down my neck. But as you can see, it's nice and high, or I can wear it down low. It's not bothering my neck. I made two other types before I decided on this size. I'll show you the other types. So before I show you the other types, I'll just measure my head. So this is the biggest part of my head is probably my forehead. And my forehead's 21 inches. So that gives you a reference point, just because that's what you're gonna look for when you pull it over your head. So if you have a smaller head, maybe you can make a smaller size, or if you've got a bigger head, you know, do your thing. All right, so this one I made, it's so tiny compared to this one I just made. This one I made, and I'm just checking out the measurements. It was 10 inches by 9 inches. So I kept the height at 9, but across I chose 10. And I still did the 3x6 little piece. This one, it looks so tiny. It does go over my head just barely. Thank goodness it's a stretchy fabric. It does look really nice because it is so close to my face and it's so close to my neck. I feel comfortable with it, but if it's something I was going to have to take on and off quite a few times during the day, that would kind of be annoying. So I think with the next size up, the 15 by 9 or 9 by 15, the one we just made is a lot more perfect, is if like I can wear that one to work because I'm coming in and out a lot, where this one maybe I'll just wear at home or on a really cold day that I'm outside. So that one was actually my second prototype. So my first one is when I measured my head and I was taking all these measurements. This one, so this one is 20 by 9. So this one's 20 by 9. This one, what did we just do? 15 by 9. It's definitely larger, goes on very, very easily. I got quite a bit of drape going on there, so if it's not as cold, or if maybe the other one's in the wash, but I really prefer the 15 by 9 or 9 by 15. So this one definitely has a bit more drape. It stands out like a little bit like that, so not so ideal for it to be standing up and, you know, protecting my face. It does protect my neck really nice. I can also have it more down, more casual looking. It's more like a slouchy scarf looking than the other one, which is definitely going to be protecting my face a lot more. So it's just really different looks that you can achieve. But these are really simple projects. You can also make it longer or shorter. I mean, these are essentially like headbands as well, which you could do. I probably wouldn't make one 9 inches wide, but I could definitely double it up and yeah, just play with it. I do like how it cinches in though, rather than it just being one huge rectangle that goes across. And this project took me about half an hour, not even. So thanks for watching the video. If you've done a certain one, let me know which size works for you, and I will chat to you later. Bye.